You know, we need to start getting coffee sponsors.
I'm going to email Hugh Jackman, Laughing Man Coffee.
Who? Never heard of Laughing Man Coffee. You're going to email him direct.
Hugh, we need to talk.
At least let me email. I'm Aussie. We have something in common.
No. What are you going to say? G'day. I'll start it off with g'day, Hugh.
And we've broken even.
He's going to be like, no. Anyway, welcome back to the McInnes Marketing Minute, guys. Jay, welcome back to my humble abode. Which
again.
We've had to pull the blinds across because it's too bright outside.
Is that the reason? Or are we hiding something on the left side? Which I'm not going to mention because then we're going to have to cancel it again. It's too bright outside. We've pulled the blinds.
Pulled the blinds, but today we're going to talk about the market update of June 2021.
We are, but before we get into that and before I forget.
Okay, here we go.
We've had hundreds of messages since last week. Hundreds of comments asking about how my foot is. And it's fine, thank you.
I don't think
Still broken.
I don't think there's been one message.
Still broken. I'm now wearing shoes, just so you all know. I don't need thongs anymore. That's all.
You absolute champion, you.
We can continue. I just giving the people an update they're looking for.
Not one message. In fact, I forgot that even happened. But thank you for that. But yeah, we're going to run through the update, and to be honest, a lot of it is much of the same, right? Like,
there's no point in saying the numbers. It's the same thing.
What we've been saying for the last couple of months, that obviously the market is kind of shifting. We
should start calling this the crystal ball, because we keep proving week over week that we have them.
And that we are correct. Yeah, it's a very good point.
Sorry to interrupt.
Welcome back to the crystal ball.
See, it's got a ring.
It's got a ring to it. Yeah, but now we're actually starting to see like a few months worth of the figures. So Jay's just going to tap that laptop over there because senile moment, can't remember a figure or two. But we're now starting to see a few months worth of trends that are actually more so proving what we've been getting at.
Yes.
So including our most hated statistic, the 10-year sales average. But so let's start with the year-over-year numbers. Now, again, like we've been saying, blah, 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 you can't use that right now to determine specifically where the market is, because last year was COVID, everyone was like shut down, not in the same way that they are now. Masks off, woo. So anyway, so April versus last year, the market was up about 342.6%. May.
So that was basically the first full month of lockdown, April.
So, well, I'm talking about this year versus like April this year versus April last year. So when you're comparing April 2021 to April 2020, sales were up 342.8%.
Because last April was the first full month of lockdown. Yes.
Okay, so May was up 187.4%. May 2021 versus May 2020.
Second full month of lockdown, yes.
And June was up 54%. So, I mean, we're still up, but you can see those numbers heavily coming down.
Even at that time, from the first, lockdown in March? And then April was the first, and then even from there, that's a pretty drastic jump in those months.
Even in the last few months, the trend shows that like it's not 300% above where we were. It's not even 200% above where, it's not even 100% above where we were. It's just been coming down, and again, it's showing that trend. The success in real estate is finding the trends and then making your move on the trends, not waiting for a particular figure or percentile at a particular time or date of year. So there's some knowledge for you.
Oh, thank you.
There you go.
For the enlightenment.
And then when we look at the 10-year average or the 10-year sales average, God, I hate that figure. But in April at its highest point, I'm pretty sure it was like plus 50% above the 10-year sales average. And it's been going down to this month, 18.7% above the 10-year sales average. So that's another one of the numbers trending downwards. So there's only a certain amount of figures and trends that you can see coming downwards before you kind of actually get the picture, okay, the market is slowing.
Yeah, and I think there's two, at least I'm seeing the wishful train of thought out there of what's going to happen moving forward, and I think the more, that would be mean to say that, there's two ways to look at it. There's that as we come in out of lockdown, masks off now as of the first for the most part, as you said, that real estate is going to start picking up again, which I think is the optimistic point of view, which I do not believe will happen. Big surprise. Or there's
a jaded view from Jay McInnes. Who would have thought?
A realistic view from Jay McInnes. Again,
using my dad's line again.
that now that we are getting past all this and little things, which are actually big things like the masks coming off and showing, again, progress away from the virus affecting everything, people have more flexibility to go and aren't as focused on real estate. So I think that we're going to continue to see that slow down.
Yeah, and
for that reason.
I also don't believe that enough of a group were holding back from buying real estate because of the pandemic that would actually make a large enough difference, if you will. Including the same argument that we were saying with those who had lost their jobs as well, when pretty much everyone got their jobs back or found new jobs.
Or had been paid based on a variety of ways all the way through.
Yeah, it wasn't really those people who were actually looking at purchasing real estate. So with that being said, things are slowing. However, I will say we are in a seller's market still, but we're not in as crazy as the seller's market. So I've got to rip on sellers a little bit here, because this is what always happens at this point, and the expectation levels go insane. If you've listened to us even a shred, then you should be realizing, okay, the trend is coming downwards. So if in my near-term plans are looking to sell, I need to get on with this as soon as possible. And no, your $2.4 million home is not going to somehow grab $2.7 million because of the way the market is. It's just not going to happen. Don't expect hundreds of multiple offers or even hundreds of showings for that matter, and expect for something realistic based on where the market is at, because the trends are working against you. And although you are in a seller's market right now, you're not going to be in a seller's market forever. And since this time last year, on average, the home price index has increased by 14.5% for all property types. So on average, that's an increase of 14.5% to property value over the year. So you break that down a month, that's 1.208% a month. This last month, the increase was 0.2%. Another factor showing that things are slowing down.
It always comes back when you're listing your property, all of that taking into consideration, if you want to look at the numbers, yes, you just have to list realistically.
Yeah, you need to find the figure that works for you. Does the market support that figure? Okay, then great, let's move ahead with this, or let's not. Now is not the time to try and be greedy, especially those people who are trying to get 2 million last year, and now because the market's increased, I now want 2.3 million. No, you weren't worth 2 million then, you are now, not 2.3 million now. So I would actually go further to that, to a word of note to buyers. If you're a buyer, take your time looking right now.
Well, there's options for sure, and days on market are mounting, so yeah.
Yeah, and of course, so the market increased by 0.2%, so that, of course, that is a cost each and every month. That's a lot better than a 1.208% every month.
And that's general.
Yeah.
That's not every single thing.
And exactly, that's an average. So take your time. You're not in a market right now where you're forced into buying just whatever you can get your hands on because of the volatility. You can take your time over the next few months. Make sure you find the right home, because to Jay's point, I don't think the market's going to shoot back up in the way the optimists think. And so you've got time on your hands.
Yeah, and a few of the buyers, especially first-time buyers that we're working with at the moment, one of the strategies has been, we watch the market, what's coming on, they're getting their auto updates, they're looking as well, everyone's keeping an eye on what's coming in their criteria. Leave the things that are priced sharp, because no one wants to compete. Mm-hmm. First-time buyers hesitate to compete in general because it's scary, plus no one wants to compete in general because they don't want to outbid and play the whole game, which is fair enough. Wait for something to be on. Pick the ones you like, but if it's gone on, there's still plenty of agents list this day, looking at offers this day. Mm-hmm. Wait till offer day to see if they don't accept anything. Oh, we didn't get any. And now you have more leverage. So don't try and still fight that front end for these things. You're going to have options, as you're saying. There's more stuff coming on. Slowly but surely, sellers will get realistic. Mm-hmm. And look at stuff as that's a week old, 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old, because there's a huge stigma, which is totally unjustified, but either why isn't it sold in 7 days in this market? Why isn't it sold in 14? It must be overpriced, not necessarily. There must be something wrong with it, not necessarily. I talked to a guy this morning. We had very well priced. I said, why are you priced at this price? Why are you still available? Everything looked good. Well, we had an accepted offer right off the bat. 12-day subject, we accepted it. They tried to get an extension, we gave it to them, and they burned 22 days.
Yeah.
So now they're already 22 days on market with nothing, and they've now just reduced the price, and people either assume it's sold, he's not getting any more calls, or they assume there's a problem. But they just accepted something, they couldn't get the financing, and now they've got days on market. So don't necessarily hunt the things that come on to the day that are going to have urgency. Look at stuff that's a week, 2 weeks old that you're not going to be competing for.
And that you may possibly be getting a deal on.
Price-wise, you'll definitely be able to get your subjects in there. And you've got the luxury of negotiating on those, as opposed to these things that are still, we're looking at stuff at 6 o'clock on Monday, so bring your best offer, pre-inspect if you can, blah, 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 blah.
But we are still technically in a seller's market, so you can't go in there crazy like all of a sudden expecting a huge amount off just because you think it's fair. You've got to play the game, for lack of a better phrase. So I think that pretty much wraps us up for this week. Guys, thank you for joining us again. We'll see you next week.